Intramuros Shadow, a paranormal experience in the walled city. The walled city of Intramuros has long been a place where people go to relax, take a break from the bustling streets of Manila, or simply enjoy a quiet afternoon. With its historical walls, cobblestone streets, and remnants of Spanish architecture, it has become a hub for tourists and locals alike. But beyond its charming facade, Intramuros holds a darker history, a history soaked in war, tragedy, and countless lost souls. During World War II, Intramuros became a battleground. Thousands of soldiers and civilians perished within its walls, leaving behind more than just ruins. Many say the city never truly moved on, that the spirits of those who met untimely deaths still roam its streets, appearing to those sensitive enough to notice. I never paid much attention to these ghost stories until I experienced something I could not explain. It all started when my classmates and I decided to shoot a short film for our final project. As film students, we were always looking for atmospheric locations, and Intramuros seemed like the perfect setting for our night shoot. The mix of history, old-world charm, and dimly lit streets created the ideal mood for our mystery-themed film. Among our team was a friend of mine, whom I'll call Michelle. Michelle had always been different. She had a strange ability, one she never openly talked about. She could sense things, see things. I had often asked her jokingly, "Do you see anything?" But she would never answer directly. That night, we set up our cameras near one of the centuries-old walls. The dim glow of the street lamps cast long shadows, and the distant sound of footsteps echoed through the empty streets. Everything was going smoothly, until Michelle suddenly called for a cut. She looked uneasy. Her eyes were fixed on the camera. We rushed over to see what was wrong. Michelle pointed to the playback screen. As we replayed the last scene, our stomachs tightened. The footage was glitching, blurring, distorting, as if something had passed in front of the lens. But the camera had been mounted on a tripod. No one had touched it. No one had walked past. I tried to reason it out. Maybe a technical issue, a focusing error. But Michelle's expression told me otherwise. "Michelle, it's not the camera. It's something else." She wouldn't say more, but the look in her eyes sent chills down my spine. And then, as if out of nowhere, the shadow appeared. It seemed to follow me, lurking just beyond the edge of my vision. I could feel its presence, cold and unyielding, no matter where I went. The air grew thick with an unspoken dread, and I knew deep down that this was only the beginning. That eerie moment stuck with me, but I shrugged it off as just a weird coincidence. The next day, we received our class cards, and to celebrate, a few of us decided to go back to Intramuros to unwind. It was a Friday night, and the city was alive with students and tourists enjoying the weekend. By 8 o'clock, the crowd had started to thin, and our group decided to leave. One of our friends, Danielle, had to head home alone. She lived near the area, but the thought of her walking alone in the dimly lit streets made me uneasy. "I'll walk with you." Michelle and another friend, Ondine, decided to come along. As we made our way down the narrow street, the old stone walls seemed taller than usual. their shadows stretching unnaturally under the flickering streetlights. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating. Then, about 20 feet ahead, I felt something. A presence. I turned my head slightly and caught a glimpse of movement from the corner of my eye. A shadow. I quickly turned to look directly, but there was nothing. Just the empty street and the quiet hum of the city beyond the walls. Did you see that? She hesitated before nodding. Ondine, there was someone. I swear I saw someone following us. We glanced at Danielle, who looked unfazed. She laughed. Danielle, you guys are just scaring yourselves. We forced a laugh, brushing it off, but deep down I couldn't shake the feeling that something was not right. We continued walking. Every now and then, I would steal glances over my shoulder, but there was nothing there. We continued walking. Every now and then, I would steal glances over my shoulder, but there was nothing there. As we reached the end of the street, Ondine suddenly stopped. Ondine? She's still following us. Who? Danielle. I frowned. What do you mean? Danielle's right here. Ondine's face paled. No, I mean, the other Danielle. A chill ran down my spine. Ondine explained that a few minutes ago, she had looked behind us and seen Danielle following. Only Danielle was already walking beside us. She had noticed this strange double moving in sync with Danielle's steps, only to vanish when she blinked. I turned to Danielle, expecting her to brush it off as another joke. But this time, she was quiet. After a long pause, she said softly, I felt it too, like someone was walking right behind me the whole time. At that moment, none of us wanted to stay any longer. We quickened our pace until we finally reached the main road. The moment we stepped into the brighter, busier streets, the heavy feeling lifted. We said our goodbyes quickly and went our separate ways, eager to get home. As I walked home, I couldn't shake the eerie feeling that lingered. It was as if something, or someone, was still watching me. I tried to dismiss it as just my imagination, but deep down I knew something wasn't right. It wasn't until I reached my doorstep that I realized we had never been alone in Intramuros. Days later, as we sat in class, the conversation drifted back to that night. Laughing nervously, we recalled our paranoia and how silly we must have looked. That's when Danielle spoke up. Danielle, I asked my grandma about it. She's always believed in spirits. We leaned in, curious. Danielle. She told me that sometimes spirits get attached to people, especially in places like Intramuros. If they see someone who reminds them of their past life, or if they feel drawn to someone's energy, they follow. We all fell silent. Then Danielle looked at us, her expression unreadable. She also said that if a spirit follows you, you should never look back. I felt a cold chill creep up my spine. Ondine and I exchanged glances, because that night, when we felt something behind us, we had both turned around, and we had looked. In the end, what we encountered in Intramuros remains a mystery. It was an experience that left us with more questions than answers. Was it a mere figment of our imagination or something more profound? Only time will tell. Intramuros remains a place of history, beauty, and mystery. It holds stories of the past, some recorded in books, others whispered in the wind. I don't know what we experienced that night. Maybe it was just our imagination. Maybe it was the play of shadows. Or maybe, just maybe, something from the past had decided to walk among us. Even now, I can't shake the feeling that, in the quiet streets of Intramuros, we were never truly alone.